The most experienced team of meteorologists. Weather coverage you can count on.
We take a look at our winter weather alerts, updated to add more counties to the winter weather advisory and the winter storm warning. I'll show you what to expect.
The first place we'll see the impact of this weather will be the roads. Are they ready? The answer straight from a DOT engineer next at noon.
And we're hours into the first full day of President Donald Trump's term. What happened in these first few hours? That is still ahead. It's a WRAL weather alert day. Our chances for snow are increasing this noon. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. Counties in the southeastern part of our viewing area are now under a winter storm warning, and the first flakes are expected in a matter of hours. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner starts our team coverage in the WRAL Severe Weather Center this noon hour. Elizabeth, people should ideally plan to be off the roads by 5 o'clock tonight.
That would be the plan for sure, because we're going to start to see this rolling in. The difference between this system and some others is now we've had several days in a row of cold temperatures. So when this starts to fall with any intensity at all, it is going to stick to the roads and it's not likely to go anywhere. So here are the updates. Winter weather advisory here in the darker purple or blue. Several counties in our the southwestern part of the viewing area now under the winter weather advisory, where we could see 1 to 2 inches. We could see maybe up to an inch north and west of that, but more likely about ½ an inch. And then Fayetteville over toward Cumberland County and these eastern counties have been upgraded to a winter storm warning. Most of these areas we'll see maybe 1 to 3 inches, but you head farther toward the coast and that's going to go up to 2 to 4 and then 4 to 6 depending on where you are along the coast. Let's take a look at where it is right now. We're definitely seeing some snow showers in Atlanta, back over toward Columbia, so Georgia, South Carolina, starting to see a little bit of it. You can see a few patches of blue there over North Carolina, but a lot of that is evaporating before it reaches the ground. This is a look at where it is now and where it's headed. So we're still dry at 3 o'clock, minus just a flurry or two. But by the time we get to 5 o'clock, we start to see some of that snow pushing in. And by the time we get to 6 or 7, it is likely to be covering the roads, at least in some places. And then we see snow showers all the way out until around midnight or so. And gradually it starts to pull off and away from us east of our viewing area by around 2 or 3 a.m. So this is a look at our snowfall forecast. We're looking at 1 to 2 inches there in the blue, and then in the white as much as 2 to 3. Now, of course, this is still, somewhat of an uncertain forecast. We're going to see how close that low gets to us. The closer it gets to us, the higher the totals are, and if it happens to bobble 20 miles to the east, all these numbers will look different. We also have very cold temperatures that are happening out there right now. First of all, once this starts, we're likely to start to see slick conditions by around 7, and then overnight it's going to be sticking on the roads and causing issues. The morning commute will be a mess and schools will likely be on delay or canceled in a lot of places. Again, we're going to talk a bit more about the cold temperatures that we're seeing along with this coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Hundreds of thousands of gallons and counting. That's how much brine DOT crews have laid down so far before the storm.
DOT officials are warning this storm has the potential to be even trickier than compared to what we saw 2 weeks ago or so, a weekend before last. And WRAL's Eric Miller joins us live from the NCDOT maintenance yard right now. Eric, what's the big challenge this time around?
Well, Jeff, it really all comes down to the temperatures this time around, both in the air and on the ground. It really does make things trickier for all these crews you see behind me at the maintenance yard. These folks preparing to head out once again, both to put down more brine and to stage ahead of that snow we're expecting later this afternoon. Now, while it might be trickier, it's not impossible for these crews. They've finished treating all primary roads here in this division. This is Division 5. It includes Wake and Durham counties, and then all the counties up to the Virginia line. In this division alone, there'll be up to 300 trucks staging out there for this snowstorm. And up to this point, Wake County alone, they have laid down 50,000 gallons of brine. But again, the thing that is making it really tricky, it is those cold temperatures. Take a listen.
It's cold. That's the biggest change. This storm, the ground is cold. It's impacted our ability to put salt brine out because we've been waiting for the temperatures to hit the right temperatures for us to install.
And Doug McNeil there says that those right temperatures, that's going to be about 20 degrees and above. Otherwise, the brine itself, that can freeze and stick to the roads and not really able to do its job out here. McNeil also called this storm remarkable for the conditions it's going to be bringing and said, as always, it's really a big help to these crews if they're not having to deal with a lot of traffic, folks out there on the roads. So good, as always, to stay home, avoid this mess before it comes rolling in. In Raleigh, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
School systems are already making crucial decisions that will keep you and the kids off the roads. Edgecombe County schools are closing 2 hours early today, so are Wayne County schools, and they have decided they are closed for tomorrow as well, along with Wake County. So far, activities and events are canceled at schools in Cumberland, Nash, Sampson, Wilson County, and Johnston County after 5 p.m.
Duke Energy is preparing for increased usage this week. The utility sent this email encouraging customers to turn down their thermostat a little bit this week if they can. That will help save energy and lessen the strain on the power grid. Coming up in our next half hour, we will look at other ways you can protect your home while keeping warm. Stay with WRAL for your winter weather updates. Get the updated forecast around the clock on WRAL and WRAL News Plus. That's over the air on Channel 34, Spectrum 1257, and the WRAL News app.
And here in the WRAL Live Center, the Gulf Coast, seeing some winter weather right now. We want to show you this live picture of Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Look at the people playing in the snow, making snowballs with their dogs here. Louisiana is seeing what they're calling a historic snow day. Some areas could see up to 4 to 8 inches. They are under a state of emergency there and a blizzard warning in effect for Southwest Louisiana. That is not normally what they hear. Right now, 246 canceled flights at New Orleans International. All major airlines are canceling flights. And this is Houston. Businesses are closed there. Schools are closed. There are 2 major airports closed. 978 canceled flights right now because of all of the snow they're seeing. They say that teams will remain on site 24/7 at the airports to prepare for a return to normal operation. That is weather permitting. They could open tomorrow, but they're saying again, that is weather permitting there.
Police are investigating after a person was found dead in a car at a Raleigh shopping center. Officers responded to Sherman Oak Place. It's off Wake Forest Road. This was overnight, and they got reports of shots fired in that area. They found a person dead inside a Subaru vehicle. Police say this is being handled as a death investigation. They're not searching for a suspect in the case. They say there is no public threat.
The Greenville officer who shot and killed a man near ECU is on administrative leave this morning. This happened around 4:30 yesterday afternoon at ECU's North Recreational Complex, which is a few miles from the school's main campus. A concerned family member called police about a man who had a gun and was threatening to harm himself. Officials say the man pointed a gun at officers. An officer then shot and killed him.
Johnston County School Board is another step closer to filling a vacancy on the board. The seat was vacated when Ronald Johnson got in trouble with the law. WRAL's Ken Smith is here with what came out of today's special session to fill that seat, Ken.
Yeah, Jeff, that meeting wrapped up earlier this morning with the board laying out the parameters of this vacancy. The requirements include making sure anyone who applies lives in District 7. They must also provide a resume along with the application. There was also discussion about possible background checks being made to all the applicants. Now, this vacancy came about after Ronald Johnson was convicted Friday of extortion and other crimes. A judge sentenced him to at least 6 months in jail. Here's how that vote to open the application process went down this morning.
So I will entertain a motion to accept the vacancy announcement on that and the application for school board vacancy. I'll entertain it. So moved. I have a motion by Mr. Donovan. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Lee. Any other discussion or questions?
There was no further discussions or questions. The board set the application deadline for January 31st in order to have someone seated by their February meeting. Now, late applications will not be considered. People can apply via email or by mail starting today.
Ken, thanks. Covering Wake County, today we'll get an update about how the school system plans to adjust its budget to close a funding gap. Wake Schools is facing unexpected costs as well as higher than expected enrollment. That's forcing it to spread money thinner than usual. It's also dealing with the deficit in school meals, which is complicated by the loss of pandemic stimulus funding. The school board will meet at 5:30 tonight.
Families in Durham now have school bus service 5 days a week again. Durham Public Schools have only been running bus routes 4 days a week since last month because of a shortage of bus drivers. The school system says employees with CDLs are filling those gaps. Durham Public Schools is also working today to fill some of its bus driver positions by hosting a career fair from 5 to 6:30 tonight at the Mini Fort Brown Staff Development Center. In addition to bus drivers, the school system is looking to hire community education staff, instructional assistants, as well as maintenance technicians.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, we just got word that crews are responding to Lenore Street in Raleigh for a damaged gas line. We just confirmed with Enbridge Gas. They are there right now fixing it. This is video from Sky 5 that we have. You can see the crews on scene there. They say this is just a damaged gas line. Once there is more information, they will update us on this. We're not sure how long they're going to be there for, but as soon as we have more information, we'll bring it to you from the Live Center.
Michelle, thanks. Next at noon, pardons and prayers. Hours after releasing January 6 participants, President Trump is at a prayer service at the National Cathedral.
Also, with this weather alert day, the evening commute could be a mess. We have a live interview with the State Highway Patrol up next.
Plus, prepping your pipes. At 12:30, expert ideas on how to avoid needing a repair in these sub-freezing cold temperatures.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
Checking in right now on the first full day of the new Trump administration. Donald Trump began the day in church, attending a national prayer service at the National Cathedral. That service wrapped up just a few minutes ago. And Wall Street is reacting to the president's tone on tariffs. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, this is a live look at where that stands right now. It's booming, 436 points in the positive. NASDAQ and S&P 500, all major indices are up today in the green. And this is after President Trump stated he would delay tariffs on Canada and Mexico until next month.
And here in the Live Center, speaking of President Trump, he is coming to Western North Carolina later this week. We just got that into the newsroom. It is his first trip since being sworn into office for the second time. The area, Western North Carolina, obviously devastated by Hurricane Helene last September. And Trump actually did mention the area and the most recent wildfires in California during his inaugural address yesterday. He's also expected to visit California later this week as well.
Michelle, thanks. President Trump has his first official cabinet member. Marco Rubio, the former Republican senator from Florida, took the oath of office as Secretary of State about 3 hours ago. The vote last night to approve Rubio as Secretary of State was unanimous. He called it a great honor to be confirmed by his former colleagues. Confirmation proceedings for two of President Trump's key cabinet nominees are moving to the full Senate. The Senate Armed Services Committee voted along party lines to advance Pete Hegseth's nomination as Secretary of Defense. The Intelligence Committee also voted to advance John Ratcliffe's nomination as CIA Director. It's unclear when the full Senate will vote on confirming either of these nominees.
With this winter weather moving in, the roads could be slick by dinner time tonight. State Highway Patrol wants to make sure drivers take extra care. And joining us now live via Zoom, Sergeant Marcus Bethea. Good afternoon, Sergeant. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm curious, with the last storm being 10 days ago or so, are there some lessons that you saw from some folks out there that you'd like to remind them carried over to this one?
Good afternoon. Yeah, certainly some lessons to learn from that. You know, this last bout that we had a couple of weeks ago, fortunately fell on a weekend, not in the middle of the work week. So I think that's kind of the difference we're going to face this time. You know, those that are working a traditional work week, plenty are still out working today. And so we certainly want to make sure that everyone can get off the roads as quickly as they can before we start to see some of this precipitation tonight.
And if they do have to be out there, how can drivers prepare for it? What are your best ideas for how they can maneuver around this?
You know, I would say try to plan ahead as best as you can. Of course, you know, we know that it's coming. We know that it's imminent. For those that are having work schedules, if they have the ability to maybe get off work a little early, get the kids from school and daycare, get them home, we definitely want to do that, hopefully before the sun goes down. Once it starts to get dark out here and those temperatures drop, it's going to become a little bit more dangerous. So it's very important to try to plan ahead and move a bit quickly today before we see nightfall.
Yeah, that is certainly the timing when you don't want to see people out there on the roads. When you see this type of precipitation falling, and this could be a different scenario than it was 10 days ago, just because of how cold it is out there right now. Once this starts to hit, the safety measures for people, four-wheel drive doesn't mean four-wheel stop, right? You want to give some folks some space when they're out there.
Correct. That's very important. The driving etiquette needs to be modified a bit. It's very important to allow some extra following distance. Definitely important to avoid that inclination to just stomp on the brakes every time something happens. If you start to lose a little bit of traction, try to fight the temptation to hit that brake and come to a complete stop. It's actually the opposite. You need to roll through some of this. You need to drive your way through it. If you lock your brakes, your vehicle's going to spin. You're going to run off the road and crash. So it's very important to just be very smooth with those driving behaviors. Let your anti-lock brakes do their job. Very important, scale it back, slow is smooth, and that's what we want. Additionally, this is much more of a safety risk right now. These temperatures are so low that if your vehicle is disabled, you don't have a running engine, you don't have working heat, you can freeze inside of that vehicle.
Absolutely.
So it's very important to not so much focus on the driving behavior, but also take into account the safety of these cold temperatures in the event you're stranded.
Yeah, no doubt. Have preparations just in case that does happen. Sergeant Bethea, thank you so much for some of that insight right there, and we hope everyone does pay heed and take it safe and slow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
When those flakes do start to fall near you, we want to know about it. Take a quick picture or a short video. Don't stay outside too long in this cold. Upload it to the Report It section of the WRAL News app or WRAL.com.
And back here in the WRAL Live Center, we're reporting some breaking news right now in Rocky Mount. Police there, Rocky Mount police are investigating a fatal incident involving an individual that was struck by a train. This is Sky 5 live over the scene right now. You can see the police and the train just stopped on the tracks. They say no further details can be released at this time. This investigation is ongoing. They are asking people to avoid the area. This is Main Street and Goldleaf Street in Rocky Mount.
Michelle, thanks. And in that conversation with Sergeant Bethea with the Highway Patrol, Elizabeth, he made a good point about how with this storm, these temperatures are so cold that if you do get in a crash and you get stranded, it will be extremely hard to stay warm. And so once again, we want people to stay off the roads tonight.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We do have another cold weather advisory for tonight and tomorrow morning. So the wind chills overnight are going to be in the single digits to low teens, and that's what we'll see tomorrow morning as well. But we're hoping that people really won't be out on the roads tomorrow morning. I remember back 15 plus years ago when we had a system where we only had a half an inch of snow and it shut down the entire area. Fortunately, this is not going to be just like that. This is going to start to fall, hopefully, as people are settling down and getting home. And when they get up in the morning, they'll see that the conditions are messy and stay home. That is our hope. This is a look at our updated winter weather advisory. So a few counties to the south and west of the triangle were added where we could see 1 to 2 inches up here in the area not shaded up near the Virginia line. That's where we could see maybe a half an inch or less. And then a few counties here were added to the winter storm warning where we could see 1 to 3 inches. And the farther east you go, closer to the coast, those totals go up really rapidly. Some the forecast for the Outer Banks are as much as 6 to 8 inches of snow. So this is going to be a doozy for some parts of our viewing area. We'll go over Futurecast again, just so you're ready for this at 3 o'clock. That snow is starting to approach us. Some of this initial snow may end up evaporating before it reaches the ground because our air mass is very dry right now, but it certainly feels like 5, 6, certainly by 7 o'clock. Things are going to be slippery out there. Here's 7 o'clock, pretty widespread snow across the area. And then once we get closer to midnight, it begins to taper off in the triangle, and about 2 or 3 a.m. it pulls out of our eastern county. So that's going to be the timeline for us. This is a look at our hour-by-hour chances. A few flurries, really starting anytime, but they may be more noticeable between 4 and 6, and then starting to see the snow accumulate a little bit on the roads, and then overnight it starts to taper off. Here's another look at our WRAL snow forecast from Durham northward. That's going to be up to an inch. So in this area, there could be just a few flurries, half an inch, or maybe up to an inch as you get closer to Durham. Around Raleigh, the blue, light shaded blue area, it is not a guarantee of 2 inches. We could see up to an inch, maybe some isolated 2-inch totals. And then there in the counties that just got added to the winter storm warning, we could see up to 3 inches. And then, of course, it just gets heavier as you get closer to the coast. So starting as flurries this afternoon, starting to get slick around 6 or 7 o'clock. It'll be slippery overnight and into the first part of the day tomorrow, maybe even all day, because our temperatures are just not going to warm up. So this is going to be a different situation. If you remember when it snowed a couple of Saturdays ago, the sun came out, melted everything. It was quick. This is not going to be that quick. There's a lot of brine out on the roads. You can see that here on Fayetteville Street. This is a look at our Jimmy V camera. Gray skies, people dressed up in their warm clothes. 26 is our current temperature, and we may climb to freezing as we get through the afternoon. Right now, the wind chill is in the teens in Durham and Raleigh. It feels like 23 in Roxborough, 20 in Goldsboro. It'll feel like 20s for most of the day. Another cold night. We're down into the teens overnight, and wind chills will be in the single digits again. So we do have another cold weather advisory in effect for tonight and tomorrow. Not just the snow, but our wind chill will be in the single digits to, say, 13 or 14 degrees. So we'll check out that 7-day forecast. Of course, today and tomorrow, both WRAL weather alert days for the cold temperatures and that potential for some snow. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about where that snow is right now and how it's affecting some other parts of the country. It's pretty incredible.
Elizabeth, thanks. Braving the cold, first responders cannot stay home in weather like this. Coming up at 4, the dangers they face while working in cold conditions.
And then at 5, Wake County School Board is meeting tonight to talk about raising teacher pay. The other key issues on the table affecting teachers and students. Well, still ahead this noon, more paperwork starting this year. Americans have to register to travel to Europe. What you need to do before you travel so you don't get sent back home.
And no two snowflakes look the same. What their shape can tell us about the impact of a winter storm. A new study out today puts a price tag on teen mental health. The research says teens suffering from anxiety or depression have a lower chance of entering the workforce as young adults. And when they do, those young adults earn nearly $6,000 a year less than their peers without these struggles.
Another tech giant is stepping back from fact-checking. Google informed the European Union it does not plan to comply with its new code of conduct. That law calls on search platforms to add fact-checking to its results. Google says it does not believe the measures are appropriate for its service as a search engine or on YouTube.
If you're traveling to Europe, you'll have more forms to fill out before you travel. U.S. citizens traveling to the United Kingdom or even just passing through will need an electronic travel authorization, basically a digital visa. The form takes about 20 minutes to complete. You need one for each person traveling, including children under 18. There's a fee of about $12, and it does take a few days to process. So what happens if you forget to submit the application?
There is a chance that you will not be allowed in the country.
Well, that's not good for your vacation. Later this year, the European Union will roll out a similar travel form. When those go into effect, they will cost about $8 per traveler.
A lawmaker in Tennessee wants to change the name of the Nashville airport. Right now, the facility is called Nashville International Airport. A state rep filed a bill to change it to Trump International Airport. Airport officials say they'll focus on customer service and travel while this debate plays out. If it passes, the name change would take effect January 1st, 2026. WRAL has winter weather coverage you can count on. Our team coverage continues in our next half hour with a look at the snow's timeline for your area and what shape the snowflakes will be when they fall.
And we're in the room where it happens. Wake County shows us how winter weather adds an extra layer to responding to an emergency. First, here's a look at the winning North Carolina Education Lottery numbers.
The most experienced team of meteorologists. Weather coverage you can count on.
A winter storm is coming our way. That's why today and tomorrow are WRAL weather alert days.
Yeah, with those flakes expected to arrive soon, the roads could be getting slick this evening before you get home tonight, in fact. And Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now. When can we expect that snow to start?
Look at it. You can see down here from Houston all the way through the deep south along the Gulf Coast. Look at all that snow that's coming down. We've seen some video, some live cameras from down here. I'm going to show you where there's actually a blizzard warning in just a little while. But I want you to look over here toward Georgia. Notice that the snow is starting to pick up in intensity, that those darker blue colors, and that moves on up into South Carolina. We're not seeing anything reaching the ground anywhere in North Carolina just yet, but you can see here's where it is, and it is definitely coming our way. So the National Weather Service has bumped up our alerts. More of our counties under a winter weather advisory here at noon, and more of our counties under a winter storm warning. And so 1 to 2 here in the blue, 1 to 3 there in the pink, and we're going to talk more about specifics. We can break it down a little bit more. I'm going to show you Futurecast first, kind of going over the timing. At 3 o'clock, you can see some of that snow approaching us, but the first part of this is likely to evaporate before it reaches the ground. So I really feel like it's going to be probably between 5 and 6 before we see a lot of flurries in our western counties, and then it pushes on in. By the time we get to 6 or 7 o'clock, there may already be some slippery spots on the roads. This is just going to be so cold and coming down probably, fairly rapidly. It's likely to taper off in the triangle by around midnight, and then 2 to 3 a.m. in our eastern counties. This is a look at another potential snow forecast here for us, up to an inch from, say, Durham to Roxborough, and that means as much as, a tenth of an inch or less. So, this is nothing to an inch. Right here from Roanoke Rapids to Raleigh to Southern Pines, up to 2 inches, and then Fayetteville, Clinton, Goldsboro, up to 3 inches. There's going to be a lot of variability in what we see in these bands, and there's going to be a sharp cutoff. Take a look at this forecast of snow. Looking at, again, we're talking about 1 to 2 inches. Durham's at a ½ an inch. There's going to be a sharp cutoff between who sees more snow and who sees very little snow. We're going to talk more about some of the impacts to the roads, and of course, our cold weather advisory as well, coming up in just a few minutes.
Elizabeth, thanks for that. Governor Josh Stein will give an update this afternoon about how the state is preparing for this incoming weather. He'll join emergency management officials at the National Guard Armory in Greensboro. That's happening at 3 o'clock this afternoon. You can watch the briefing live on WRAL.com. Now, responding to an emergency gets even harder when this winter weather is involved. And this morning, WRAL's Carly Haynes toured the Wake County Emergency Operations Center, where they track anything from burst pipes, problems with lines, and road conditions. They have a map that they use. Wake County uses this one to see every incident that's in our area. It is how they determine if something is high impact, if it requires a bigger response with extra help. Utility services, fire rescue, and more can all be called from this room right here ahead of any serious weather event to help prepare and plan. Now, once we start to see the impacts of this weather, the amount of people in the room grows.
If we need to reach out to a municipal partner or the school system to say, hey, look, this is going to take a lot longer than usual. We may need to look at, setting up a warming center or something like that. Then that's what's happening right now. And all of our, cameras, sensors, our computer-aided dispatch system all give us the ability to make sure that we have kind of a full picture of what's happening in the community.
Yeah, so they've been using this system for about a year and continue to fine-tune it. Because of the cold temperatures, the focus will be on helping out utility crews for heat and electricity. And Carly will show us more of this facility this afternoon on WRAL's News starting at 4.
Today, we are looking county by county at how areas are preparing for the winter weather coming our way. The school systems in red are dismissing 2 hours early today. That's Edgecombe County and Wayne County schools. In fact, Wayne County has already made the call to call off school tomorrow. The systems here in yellow have canceled after school events and activities today because of the timing of the storm. And so far, that list includes Cumberland, Nash, Sampson, Wilson County, and Johnston County. When schools start making decisions about tomorrow's classes, you will find them on the WRAL News app.
Also in Sampson County, the Parks and Recs Department wants people to stay off the road, so they have rescheduled tonight's basketball games to Friday. That does mean some changing locations there, and a post on the county's Facebook page has all the details for that. Orange County is opening warming centers and shelters for the next few days during these freezing temperatures. Locations include the county's main library in Hillsborough, the Passmore and Seymour centers, also in Hillsborough, and the Eflin, Cheeks, and Cheeks Community Center there. The Seymour Center will also operate as an overnight shelter tonight with cots, blankets, and snacks provided. Animal Services will arrange off-site sheltering for pets if needed.
When the flakes start falling near you, we want to know. Take a quick picture or a short video. Please don't stay outside too long in this cold, and upload it to the Report It section of the WRAL News app or WRAL.com.
And following some breaking news right now in the WRAL Live Center, the former leader of the Proud Boys and the former founder of the Oath Keepers have both been released from prison after President Trump offered clemency for their January 6th attacks at the U.S. Capitol. Their lengthy sentences for that attack were wiped away. This clemency also benefited more than 1,500 defendants. Enrico Tarrio and Stuart Rhodes were two of the highest profile January 6th defendants and received some of the harshest punishments. They are now free. Trump also ordered the Attorney General to seek the dismissal of roughly 450 other cases that are still pending against judges right now. He says the pardons will, quote, end a grave national injustice and begin a process of national reconciliation.
Los Angeles area enters a week with another dangerous red flag warning. The Santa Ana winds could whip up once again, fueling the fires in that area. The Palisades fire is the largest there. It is 56% contained. Investigators have narrowed their search for the cause of the fire. Their attention is focused on a popular hiking trail where another fire started January 1st. Crews are making progress on the Eaton fire. It is now 87% contained. This is some of the first drone footage of Altadena now that the flames have been knocked down. So far, the Eaton fire has burned more than 14,000 acres and 9,000 structures in Pasadena and Altadena.
Severe weather and natural disasters are taking their toll on the nation's blood supply. So far in 2025, the American Red Cross says more than 10,000 blood and platelet donations have not happened so far this year. Wildfires don't usually impact blood donations since fires tend to be in rural areas. The Red Cross says people across the country have stepped up by giving money and volunteering their time. No two snowflakes are the same. Meteorologist Chris Michaels explains why each flake takes on a unique shape. And no flights in or out of Houston today. The winter storm's snowball effect on air travel. Talk about history. Snow falling on Bourbon Street. Yes, snow started falling in New Orleans around 6 o'clock this morning, our time. In fact, parts of Louisiana were under a blizzard warning for the first time ever. This is just wild. The New Orleans area expecting to see more than 4 inches before it is all through. Well, snow is pretty when it falls, but how it looks once it lands depends on what shape the flakes take.
Yeah, because snowflakes are far from one size fits all. Meteorologist Chris Michaels explains what shape we'll see today and how that affects the forecast.
The size, the shape of snowflakes can definitely shape what we see here at ground level. And in terms of how cold it is right now, what we're looking at are these snowflakes called dendrites. And the shape of them is kind of how you would, when you make paper snowflakes, that's kind of what they look like. And so they start out with this hexagon shape, and then as the air is colder and you get more water droplets collecting onto it, you get that fan that's going out. What you notice when it's cold out is that the snowflakes are drier, a little more powdery, and they've got pockets of air in between. So they collect a little bit. It's like playing Tetris, so they stack a little more easily as they fall toward the ground. This is also why we use different ratios when we're trying to calculate how much snow is going to fall. And in this case, because it's cold, it's a 15-to-1. Basically, for every 15 inches of snow, that's 1 inch of rain. And in terms of how much liquid there is, about 1/10 of an inch. That's why it makes this forecast pretty tricky, because we're not looking at a ton of moisture, but any little shift in that makes a difference in what you see. In terms of the type of snow, again, it's light, it's powdery, it's easy to remove, that's great, but if you're looking for snowballs in the areas that do see snow accumulation, it's going to be a little tougher to make those first thing Wednesday morning.
The Tetris effect.
You learned a new word, dendrites.
Yeah, dendrites.
All right, thank you.
All right, lots of ratios and stuff, science going on there. It is the ultimate in chicken soup to go. You can find out how you can carry that healthy goodness with you everywhere you go ahead this noon.
And we will give you a live look right now at Wrightsville Beach. All that sand you see will be covered with snow tomorrow. That's wild. We're checking in to see how coastal towns get ready for a snowstorm still ahead.
All right, check it out. It's going to be a regular day in Houston, Texas, except there's snow falling, right? The city already received enough snow that we're seeing snowball fights in the center of town. All major airports closed at midnight as that storm approached as well. And Bourbon Street as well. We showed you just a few minutes ago that Bourbon Street is getting a snow covering right now. Michelle McConaughey is in the Live Center right now to see if this is having an effect on the national flight picture right now, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Airports all across the country, specifically in Texas and Louisiana, really seeing a lot of delays and cancellations. Right now within the U.S., 1,900 delays and more than 2,000 cancellations so far. Here locally at RDU, I just checked, we have 16 delays and 8 cancellations. But again, the Gulf Coast really seeing a lot of those delays and cancellations. Houston, Bush Intercontinental, 978. That is shut down today. And if you go over to, let's see, we have New Orleans, 247 cancellations. So not a good day if you are flying to either of those destinations. Check your flight before you leave the house.
And right now, communities on the North Carolina coast are gearing up for their first snow in years. Let's give you a live look at Wrightsville Beach. Snow is expected to start falling in the Wilmington area in the next few hours. Now, earlier this morning, we spoke with first responders there about how they are preparing the community for this rare weather event.
Of it is kind of framing it, kind of thinking like hurricane preparedness. So, we know with this incoming storm, we're looking at snow, maybe some sleet, definitely adverse driving conditions. We're not expecting any freezing rain with this particular event. We're looking more at just a strictly snowfall event. But, 2 to 4 inches of snow may not sound like a lot, but it is. And, particularly making sure that we have the resources in place and that people can be safe, kind of navigating through that. Anything that falls, if it melts Wednesday during the daytime, it's going to freeze again, because really the broader picture, aside from just this snow event, is how frigid it is and how cold it is.
Taking a look at the big picture here, and Elizabeth, we have seen this from Houston all the way across that lower eastern seaboard and Gulf of Mexico there. That's unprecedented stuff.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's a huge swath of snow here. I mean, Michelle was just telling us the Houston airport was shut down, and that there were, almost 300 cancellations there in New Orleans. And no surprise here. Look at all that snow coming down. This is what is headed our way. Already starting to see a good bit of that in Georgia and kind of sneaking into South Carolina. And even though you may see a little bit of blue showing up there over North Carolina, whatever is showing up on the radar there is evaporating before it reaches the ground. We have a very dry air mass in place. So right here, get a good look at how dark that blue is right there along the Gulf Coast. And then take a look at this and talk about unprecedented. A blizzard warning from East Texas all the way over here across parts of Louisiana. For the first time in history, a blizzard warning along the Gulf Coast in that particular spot. Looking at heavy snow from New Orleans to Destin to Charleston up toward Wilmington. Along that band, it could be anywhere from, say, 4 to 6+ inches off the coast of North Carolina. The Outer Banks could be seeing, again, as much as maybe 6 to 8 inches of snow. This is a look at Futurecast. And, of course, by 3 o'clock this afternoon, a little bit of snow showing up, or at least a wintry mix there along the coast. You can see there at 5 o'clock some of the snow showers in our eastern counties. And then that all fills in as we get into the evening hours. It could start in some places as early as 5, or likely have some roads covered with snow, at least in some places, by 7. By midnight, it starts to pull out of the triangle and then out of the rest of the viewing area by around 2 or 3 a.m. This is a look at our forecast of snow. We take a look at our forecast map here. Hopefully it's going to, there it is, it popped in. The main thing to note here is look at just who has it and who doesn't. There's going to be a sharp cutoff of very little snow to our north and west. Say even in Durham, could be less than ½ inch, while parts of Wake County gets 2 inches. So we're going to see that big spread. It's usually flip-flopped the other direction, where all the snow is here and none of it is here, and there's a sharp cutoff. But that's what we're looking at. Maybe up to 3 inches in Fayetteville, maybe more than that in Clinton, maybe 3 inches in Goldsboro. That's just sort of an estimate of how much we could see. Of course, the purple shaded area, winter weather advisory, up to 1 to 2 inches, and then those pink counties there, up to 1 to 3 inches. And there'll be some widely ranging totals for sure. And again, kind of another look at it here from Durham, north and west, up to 1 inch, but definitely plenty of places seeing only some flurries, maybe half an inch. Right here from Roanoke Rapids through Raleigh to Southern Pines, up to an inch or two. And then the farther east you go, the heavier those totals could get. Wind chill this afternoon, really chilly. We'll see a high temperature around 32. As we get into the evening, we're going to see those wind chills dipping back down into the mid-20s. We have another cold weather advisory in effect for tonight and tomorrow morning. Wind chills going to be in the single digits. We saw that this morning. Those wind chills were in the single digits. Tonight, tomorrow morning, 6 in Roxborough, 10 South Hill, 12 in Raleigh. So we heard from the state trooper there earlier, not only is it going to be dangerous to be driving, but if you get stuck, it is dangerously cold out. Lots of cloud cover, but nothing falling just yet. Live look at Chapel Hill, courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. Of course, tonight, tomorrow, all a WRAL weather alert day. It stays chilly. Thursday morning, we'll be in the teens again. So whatever falls is not likely to melt anytime soon. It may be Friday before we see very much of it.
We know what snow is supposed to look like, and we'll tell you where there is already enough piling up for kids to get out there on their sleds.
How fun. Here's a look at the winning Powerball numbers: 15, 16, 32, 47, 54. The Powerball is 6, and the Power Play multiplier is 3.
We wrap things up with a look at a few of the headlines we are following for you today.
The DOT is getting the roads ready for this winter storm. Crews have already laid down hundreds of thousands of gallons of brine. Officials are warning this storm has the potential to create even slicker conditions compared to what we saw a week and a half ago. This time, brutal cold temperature are presenting a real challenge for crews. The DOT sector, including Raleigh, Durham, and counties up to the Virginia line, has as many as 300 snowplows ready to go.
Wake County Emergency Operations Center is ready for this winter storm as well. It can track problems that come up with utilities and determine if it's something that needs a greater response. We're talking about everything from burst pipes to problems with lines and poor road conditions. For this storm, they'll be focusing on helping utility crews for heat and electricity.
School systems are already making those crucial decisions about tomorrow. We have 4 school systems that have made their decisions. Edgecombe County Schools will do remote learning tomorrow. Harnett County Schools, asynchronous learning. Hope County Schools, asynchronous learning. And Sampson County Schools, remote learning. No in-person classes in those school systems. So far, activities and events are canceled at schools in Cumberland, Nash, Sampson, Wilson County, and Johnston County after 5 p.m. This cold and flu season, you will not need a microwave to get your chicken noodle soup fix. Progresso is introducing soup drops. That's a hard candy with the flavors of chicken noodle soup. The drops come in a box of 20 that looks like a can of regular old Progresso soup. These are only available online, and this is the company's way to celebrate National Soup Month, which is January.
I'm not sure about that. This snow we are seeing across the country that is hitting the Northeast as well. These are kids in New Jersey enjoying sledding and the largest snowfall they've seen this season. Video from the town of Neptune, which is about halfway between New York and Philadelphia. They got a couple inches of snow there, and they are also under a cold weather advisory, but having fun with it. Freezing pipes and heating problems. Cold winter weather comes with home emergencies. And coming up at 4, we take a look at how local companies are helping you get prepared for the snow.
On behalf of the kiddos, I'm hoping for, a decent amount of snow for sledding, perhaps tonight into tomorrow. NBC News Daily is next on WRAL. Your next local news update in 30 minutes.
Put those sleds to use.
That's right.
You can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Have a great day. Be safe tonight. It's going to be tricky out there.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.